Hey, welcome back. In this mini lecture, I'll talk about Ivy Lee, a public relations pioneer. He is really renowned for seeking journalistic integrity for public relations. Just some background on Lee. He is a pioneer of public relations, a publicity expert, a Princeton grad, and a news reporter for a few different outlets: the New York Times, New York World, and New York American. Also, in terms of his background, he worked in PR across a variety of different industrial sectors like automobiles, meatpacking, rubber, steel, and tobacco. Some of the biggies of back in his day. He was also, later in his career, publicity director for American Red Cross. He also provided a great amount of pro bono work to mainly burnish his image, and some of his notable clients include the Rockefeller family and American Red Cross. He was a pioneer in the actual entity of having a public relations firm. He opened the third PR firm in U.S. history. His firm is characterized by journalistic qualities like accuracy, authenticity, and interest. He also issued a formal declaration of principles. This demonstrated a commitment to journalistic principles in public relations and made it a bit more reputable than it once was. Lee's Declaration of Principles, it was his most long-lasting and most sweeping contribution to the field of PR. It was developed in 1906. It was intended to lower news industry hostility to PR. At the time, press releases were intended to look like news, but in fact weren't really news, so it was kind of deceptive. Eventually, this declaration led its way to the Public Relations Code of Ethics. It's for PR professionals to practice within business, so it kind of gives them guidelines. Here's some excerpts from Lee's declaration. Quote, "This is not a secret press bureau. All our work is not in the open. We aim to supply news." So again, news focused. "This is not an advertising agency. If you think any of our matter ought properly to go to your business office, do not use it. Our matter is accurate. Further details on any subject treated will be supplied promptly, and any editor will be assisted most carefully in verifying directly any statement of fact." And finally, another excerpt. "In brief, our plan is frankly and openly, on behalf of business concerns public institutions, to supply the press and public of the United States prompt and accurate information concerning subjects which is of value and interest to the public to know about." So again, pretty rock solid principles and declarations to help make PR more reputable. I'll talk about a couple of his PR campaigns. One of his notable ones was with the Pennsylvania Railroad wreck. There was a fatal train accident in Atlantic City in 1906, and in response, back when at that time there was a lot of hiding of information, instead Lee held on-site briefings, distributed fact sheets, and made corporate executives available for interviews, which were all novel at the time. Also, he issued what is considered to be the very first press release. He persuaded the company to disclose information to journalists before they could hear it elsewhere. In sum total, these PR actions were well received by the news industry, by the public, and by the government. The second one is softening John D. Rockefeller's image. Before 1914, Rockefeller was seen as a ruthless, profit-driven robber baron. Many people saw him as one of the most hated men in America. However, Ivy Lee improved his image. He redressed worker grievances, improved wages, improved working conditions, and negotiated contracts. After a long campaign, by the 1930s, Rockefeller was seen as a generous humanitarian and philanthropist, and many of his initiatives still exist to today. Finally, for the American Red Cross, the organization became a Lee client during World War I. At the time, it was indistinguishable from other first aid organizations. However, to combat that, Lee combined facts, stats, and personal stories. These stories included stories from both the victims but also the volunteers. After this work, the Red Cross was seen as one of the most respected service organizations in the world. He also had a couple of innovations that, again, still exist today. Internal magazines to help boost employee morale, management newsletters, stockholder reports, and media news releases. Again, innovations that were innovative at the time and are still used today. That was Ivy Lee, public relations pioneer. Thanks for watching.